Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Marla and I make videos every week about the things that I make that you can make too. Today we are making one of my favorite recipes for banana bread. I think you'll find it's really simple, quick, and more importantly, delicious. So let me show you how to make it. The actual recipe is in the description box below, but here is what you need. I love this recipe because all the ingredients are things I usually have on hand. And I think the best part is that it calls for exactly 1 cup of mashed bananas. Instead of a lot of recipes that say add 2 or 3 bananas, bananas come in all different sizes, and that definitely affects the results. Baking is chemistry. It's important to measure accurately. So I think 1 cup of banana helps ensure the same results each time. Speaking of chemistry, I read recently that it's actually the amount of baking soda added to that determines the color of the bread. More baking soda creates a darker bread. Science is so cool. All right, it's time to start mixing. I have a KitchenAid mixer, but for this recipe, I think it's easy just to mix it in a bowl. Like most baking recipes, the first step is combining the sugar and the butter. It is really helpful to soften the butter to room temperature before you start. I actually left this butter out on the counter the night before because you want it at least this soft so that it mixes easily into the sugar. You can microwave it, but you don't want it melted. You just want it soft. Once the sugar and the butter is combined, pretty much like I have here, next step is to add 2 eggs. It's a good idea to crack your eggs into a separate bowl first before adding them, just to make sure that you don't get any eggshells in your batter. So you want to combine the eggs into the butter and sugar. And at this stage, as you add ingredients, you want to make sure that they're well combined before you move on. Next, we're going to be adding a teaspoon of vanilla. So we want to stir that in, and once we're at this point, we're going to move on to combining our dry ingredients. We actually don't add the banana and the sour cream until later. So there are 3 dry ingredients: all-purpose flour, salt, and baking soda. Once the 3 are combined, it's time to add them into the other bowl. So we're gonna stir the 3 together because we want to make sure that it is incorporated before we move on, and then we're going to stir that into our wet ingredients. So we're going to continue stirring just until combined. This might take a minute, but then we're going to add the banana. And as we're adding ingredients, it gets a little tougher to stir. It might take a little muscle here. Once we get the banana mixed in, the last thing that we're going to be adding is the sour cream. I'm not sure actually why it's added last. Again, chemistry, I assume. You can either use full fat sour cream or low fat. I've used both. They've worked fine either way. Nuts are also an optional ingredient in this recipe. So if you're going to add walnuts, you would add a half a cup of walnuts at this point. Now it's time to prepare our baking pan. I spray it first, and then I always line my baking pan with parchment paper. It just makes it so much easier to remove the bread once it's done, and it's also much easier for cleanup as well. I cut it to fit size, but I don't worry about the shorter size of the pan, so I still do spray those sides of the pan just in case so it doesn't stick. In the batter goes, my bread pan is rather large, so the bread doesn't end up as tall as when you use a smaller pan. I make sure that the batter is level by pushing the batter into the corners. It helps the bread bake more evenly. So the size of the pan does affect the baking time. It can take between 45 minutes and about an hour depending on the size of your pan. So we're going to be putting this into a 350 degree preheated oven, and then I check for doneness at about 45 minutes. You don't want to overbake. So while we're waiting for the bread to bake, here's a tip for storing ripened bananas. I know a lot of people just throw away ripened bananas, but all you have to do is freeze them. I just peel them, slice, and add them to a bag, and I keep it in the freezer so they're ready anytime I want to make a smoothie or, more banana bread. So it's ready now to go in the freezer. This loaf was done at about 48 minutes. You can check for doneness by inserting a toothpick at several points. Even with moist banana bread, the toothpick should come out clean when it is done. So then we're going to loosen the bread on the short sides. Remember, it didn't have the parchment paper there, so we do want to make sure that it's going to come out easily. Then the next step is actually to remove it to a cooling rack, so it gives it the time to completely cool. If you have the discipline, wait until it's completely cool before cutting into it. It was about an hour later when I started cutting it here. I use a serrated knife to slice a few pieces, and then I leave the rest of it whole to keep it from drying out. You can store it in either an airtight container or a Ziploc bag. So let me know if you try this recipe and how yours turns out. I think you're gonna love it. Thanks so much for watching. This is just my third video and my first time using voiceover. I'm trying to learn something new with each video I make. So also let me know what you think of the voiceover, and I'll use it again some other time. My initial goal is to get to 100 subscribers, and I'm about halfway at this point. So please subscribe if you haven't to help me get to my goal. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.